Okay everyone, welcome back to another Flames War Battle Report. This is going to be between Lucas and Tom, both boys up in Scotland, so another remote game for these guys. And we're going to be playing a new mission, the Meatgrinder, so another bocage mission from the British D-Day book. Both these forces were selected prior to the mission, so it's interesting, but I like to see two more experienced players take on bocage, and it'd be interesting. They both got good lists to deal with it anyway. So this is Lucas's list. This is from the D-Day American book, and we have just one formation, a parachute rifle company. So we have a HQ of 2 SMGs, and we have 2 full platoons. So that is 7 rifle MG teams with a little mortar and 2 bazookas, so an extra bazooka has been added to each platoon. We also have a 3rd platoon, just a short one, so that is 5 rifle MG teams, again with a little mortar and 2 bazookas. And rounding off that formation we have 4 mortar teams. Now in support we have 2 units of 3 priests, and with them is a Sherman OP. So some nice decent templates in this list already, especially with the priests. And the last support is 5 veteran 76mm Sherman tanks. So dealing with any heavy armour that Tom might bring to the field, these boys are here for that. Now that is all of Lucas's list. So let's have a look what Tom's bringing, and he is using the Vavan SS book. Okay, so here is Tom's Vavan SS D-Day list. So it's just a Panzergrenadier company, an SS one. We have the HQ, which is 2 SMGs, and just double check if he has Panzerfaust with those boys. So on my phone on forces. They do have them. And then we have 1st Platoon, which is 7 Rifle MG teams. They have Panzerfaust and a Panzerschreck. 2nd Platoon is a armoured Panzergrenadier platoon, just 5 bases with 3 half-tracks and Panzerfausts. There is a 3rd Platoon at the back, another full platoon of 7 with Panzerfausts. Still in formation we have 4 mortar teams. We have 3 Pak 40s, 2 of the armoured flamethrower carriers, and 2 heavy machine guns. Now all the support is from the Vavan SS book as well. We have 3 250 scouts, 3 Vesps with an OP, and we have 4 SS Panthers. So some big tanks here. Excuse me. So hopefully the 76mm Shermans will be able to deal with these for Lucas. For command cards, Tom has 2. He has Panzer Pioneers, his fan favourite for him, and he's also taken machine gun nests for the heavy machine guns. So it should be very interesting for both these armies to play out in the Meatgrinder mission. Looking forward to setting up. It's quite easy. You just shove down all the hedges and maybe a few buildings in the middle for the crossroad. And that is it. So let's go and have a look at the board. Hello everyone, so here we have the table set up, and today's mission is going to be Meatgrinder. It is from the British D-Day book, and it's a bocage mission. So again, a 4-foot by 4-foot table. I will put a picture up of the mission in case any of you want to play it or just see the rules. So you might be able to notice there is already an objective in the middle of the table. So there's going to be 3 objectives in play. Basically the attacker will place 1 and the defender will place 1, and basically you win the game when you hold 2, and these don't become active until turn 6. So plenty of game to be had before then. So I managed to get hold of a few more hedgerows before this game, which is great, and I've tried to put as many down as possible, with a few buildings in between. I had a little look at some aerial photos of the Normandy terrain from aerial reconnaissance, so that was quite cool. And I saw a few pictures online of other people's tables, and I tried to do a little something similar to that. So, as you can see, we're using the river as the border for today's table. A couple of forests around, and we have a few ruined houses over here, some preliminary bombardments, just semi-detached houses. That's it, and that's the board. So we're gonna it says meet and engagement, so both players have to roll off to see who's the attacker, and then it's luckily all deployed. The attacker, defender deploys, and then the attacker. So should be an interesting game today. Two experienced players. No doubt they've gone through bocage before, but there's going to be plenty of it down for today's game, and be interested in having this central objective being fought over as well. Okay everyone, so we're fully deployed. Tom deployed first because he was the defender, because he got the lowest die roll out of him and Lucas. So Tom on his left flank did a little spearhead using his 250 half tracks, and in the little bubble they managed to squeeze in the flamethrowers, the OP, and the first 3 panthers, and the last panther at the back just used the regular deployment zone. So just a little push up, bearing in mind they have to be outside 16 inches of the objective and the deployment zone for the Americans. So that is it, that little left thrust over there towards the hill. Going over, we have 2nd platoon mounted up in their half tracks, with 3rd platoon directly behind. In this little semi, we have the HQ and a machine gun nest in the top floor, with the Vesps directly behind. We have 1st platoon, which are the Panzer Pioneers, right by this objective, and on the hill is basically the rest of the list. So the Pak 40s, another machine gun nest right on the edge of the hill, and we have the mortars at the back. And that is it for the Vavan SS deployment. For Lucas's counter, he has put the full 2nd platoon of his paras on the left flank, with a lot of cover for his mortars and also areas so they can spot out. We have the Sherman OP surrounded by the mortar teams, and we have the short platoon, that is 3rd platoon, in this junction of the road, and again got their mortar pushed right up to the bocage so they can see out. Directly behind them we have a priest battery, and in this crater section here we have 1st platoon and the HQ ready to push up. Going further up the field again, we have more priests, and then we have the veteran 76 Shermans over there. So the person who's going first has not been decided yet. They both need to roll off, highest one being the attacker. Now with meeting engagements, going first is useful, but you can't bring in aircraft or bombard. The guy who goes second though, or lady who goes second, can, so it just enables you to not wipe out your opponent in that first turn, because you can leave yourself exposed not knowing who's going to go first. So I think Lucas would like to go second, since he can bring all 6 of his artillery teams to use straight away from turn 1. So we'll see now who goes first. Okay, so movement for the American 2nd platoon has pushed up. So I'll just move back up to make sure he's still in concealment. They have pushed up and did a follow me, being veteran and fearless. That's passed. They left their mortar behind. In fact, every platoon have left their mortar behind. So 3rd platoon have pretty much occupied this building, and 1st platoon and the HQ have likewise done the same with this one. Over here, all the 76mm Shermans have moved onto the hill, but staying behind the crest so they can't be seen yet. And that is it for movement. Nothing can shoot, so because everything dashed, and everything else is pretty much artillery. So we're going into Tom's turn 1. Okay, so for Tom's movement, 1st platoon, the bulk of the platoon have moved forward, 3 teams going onto the objective, and 2 more teams crabbing across to the right onto the bocage. These 2 teams with the dice didn't move, so are still in their foxholes. Other than that, the only other thing was moved where these guys did a terrain dash, did a follow me, so the unit leader pushed forward who was behind, leaving them like this. So those are the flamethrowers, and the scouts pushed forward, staying in the field, so they will keep going to ground anyway. And that is it for movement. Going to sit tight for now, so it's going to be a fairly long time before the objectives come active, so no point risking anything yet. And I do believe there is going to be as much artillery as possible directed on this platoon here, or potentially the centre. So we'll see what happens in the shooting. Okay, so basically the shooting was pretty much all artillery. So the way we've been playing the bocage, we're doing it basically from line of sight, from elevated ground. It seemed a bit more sense. So these mortars used their mortar team on top of the hill to spot, could see down into here. They ranged in, got a bunch of hits, and Lucas lost a bazooka team, so not too much trouble over here. Bazooka not really needed. The other ranged in was on top of this house, courtesy of the HQ, and the Vesps ranged in here, and they took out another rifle team, and also hit the HQ, so both teams pinned. The only other things to fire was the MG on the hill, got 2 hits but no kills, and then the Pak 40 also opened up onto this platoon but got no hits. And that's it. So now we're going into American turn 2, see if everything rallies and everything keeps on pushing up. Okay, so summary of the motivation step. This para platoon is unpinned, and over here, first platoon is unpinned and the HQ is unpinned. That is fearless troops there, and obviously with a reroll as well from the HQ helps them out greatly. So we're all good for everything to keep on rumbling forward for the Americans. Okay, movement wise, second platoon have moved with most of their teams on the edge of the bocage so they can see out, and the bazooka right on the edge, and just within range of this first Pak 40 by here. In the centre, some elements of first platoon have emerged from the house to try and deal with these flamethrowers. 4 teams, 2 bazookas, 2 rifle teams, so potentially they could knock out this guy, one of these guys, and maybe finish him off with some grenades. The veteran Shermans failed the blitz move, but moved to the crest of the hill regardless to also help out with shooting for the flamethrowers. And that is it for movement for the Americans, and now we're going into the shooting phase and their 100 templates that they've got, so we'll see what that does. Okay, so a lot of artillery went down this turn, but being just one team's, didn't get a whole lot of hits. Over here we had 3rd platoon and 2nd platoon range in. Everyone seems to hit the machine gun nest but not kill it. The Pak fronts and the mortars are unscathed over here, and the firepower from the paras didn't do anything either. Over in the centre, both priest batteries are ranged in on this house. They ranged in on this house. The 2IC has been killed, and a rifle team from the SS has gone as well, and a Vesp has been bailed out. The paratroopers in the centre managed to bail out one of the flamethrower half-tracks, and unfortunately all the Shermans on the hill managed to miss. If he hadn't failed that blitz, obviously it would have been a different story, so that was a bit unfortunate over there. So he is in range of an assault, so it's up to Lucas if he wants to try and risk it. So we will see what happens. Okay, so here we have the result of the assault. It's a bit dark today, it is raining. So basically, the flamethrower is only the one guy who could shoot, so he had his 4 shots. He got 2 hits. It does pin a team, but it doesn't stop the assault, and unfortunately Lucas has lost both bazookas from 1st platoon. The 2 teams that made it in onto the active half track and failed to hit. So then Tom decided to break off, and he has broken off in the direction of his formation commander because he will need the re-rolls for the motivation now. So that guy got blown up because he was bailed and couldn't break away, and these guys have retreated into the woods more than 2 inches from the edge, so they can't be seen. So that is the end of the American turn, so now we're going back into the German turn. Okay, SS motivation, everything's rallied, machine gun nest over here, and then this formation commander really helping out with the motivations for basically all the pin units, the bailed units, and of course the last stand on the half track by here, just down to one team. So lucky he's there, but there's only that one team left, so will he stick around, especially with two priest templates right on top of him, and maybe more. So here we go now into German movement. Okay, movement for the SS. A few more teams from 1st Platoon have moved over to cover the bocage in front of all the big guns. The half tracks from 2nd Platoon have dashed onto the road, and that's as far as they could go because they can't go within 8 of those teams. 3rd Platoon is moving up, supporting the flamethrower half track and the scouts and the OP, because Tom does like to get his OP stuck into combat, or well, firing anyway. So that is it for German movement, and now we're going to go into the shooting and see what happens. Okay, for the shooting, the mortar's rearranged here. This is basically as far as you can see because of the hedges. Took out 2 more rifle teams, and the machine gun nest could only see 1 more team, and he got rid of him. So 3 American rifle teams have been murdered by here. Over in the centre, the Vesps continued firing their artillery. No kills this time, but pinned down the HQ again. Before these guys could get a chance to shoot, the flamethrower killed the 2 teams in the forest, and the Panthers took out 2 of the 76mm Shermans, leaving just 3 left in this platoon. So there's a lot of decisions for Lucas to make going into American turn 3. Okay, so American motivation, everything going okay so far, but on the far left these guys have failed to rally, so not looking great at the moment there. So Lucas is going to have to try and dig these guys in and go from there, since this little flanking manoeuvre is starting to falter. So we'll get on into the movement. Okay then, for movement, these guys did manage to dig in, so at least they're in bulletproof cover from artillery. And the 76ers have moved off the hill into this nice little protective screen of bocage here from the Panthers, and obviously they can get good shots here on the recce contingent of the SS. So that is that for movement, and now we can get into the shooting again. Okay, so Lucas is stretching the amount of pin markers I've got. He's pinning a lot of stuff but not managing to kill much. He did kill a Vesp, so that's quite significant in terms for artillery, and he killed a team from 3rd Platoon. This is all artillery, and the 76mm Shermans managed to wipe out 2 of the scout teams, so there's 1 team bailed out, but he's going to be last standing from now on. So we're going into SS turn 3. Okay, so in regards to motivation, the only thing that didn't unpin was the Pak 40s, which really isn't too much of a shame, since there's no armour on this side apart from an OP, which they can't see. Everything rallied in this house. Last stand wise, the flamethrower is still good, but the OP had enough. The 76mm guns bearing down on him was enough for him to turn around and drive away, which I think is fair enough, and I think we all agree on that. So that is it for the motivation, and now we can get straight into the movement, and that flamethrower no doubt is going to cause a lot more havoc. Okay, so the SS 1st Platoon have moved into a position with the help of a follow me to engage and destroy this paratrooper platoon in the hedges. Furthermore, the Vesps have done a cross here and got out and onto the road. Everything's pushing up, the half tracks are pushing up, and the HQ is also with them. Flamethrower, after already getting rid of most of 1st Platoon of the paras, is going to try and get rid of the rest, and the infantry are pushing up into support as well. The Panthers have done a tactical move into the field to engage the Sherman 76s. So it's 4 against 3 now, and these tanks are very big. So we'll see what happens in the shooting phase, but I do think there's going to be plenty of assaults going in either way, so here we go. Okay, so the SS started with the mortars laying down a smoke barrage, mainly just for retaliatory artillery bombardments next turn. In the house over here, everything apart from the flamethrower fired at the infantry team, which they pinned, but no kills. And then the flamethrower pinned the HQ, getting one hit and killing the 2 IC. The Panthers, with 2 hits, managed to kill one Sherman 76 and bail the other one. So that is where we end that, and now we have 2 lots of assaults to get into. Okay, so American 2nd Platoon, unfortunately, is no more. Only 1 hit they got, and that was with the bazooka, and unfortunately that didn't kill anyone. In the house over here, though, went slightly better. 2 of the SS were dropped by the HQ and the infantry team. In the end, the Americans could say they won the assault. Only 1 team left for the Germans, and the American platoon only just managing to stay in good spirits after bringing the mortar forward with their consolidation. So just 3 teams total left in this house, the HQ and 2 rifle teams and the mortar behind. So hanging on by a thread, but still definitely in the game as we go into American turn 4. Okay, so motivation-wise for the Americans, 2nd Platoon rallied and everything else rallied and got back in luckily. Although the remaining mortar of 2nd Platoon, who was stationed here after seeing his mates not being captured, potentially, has decided to leave. And that is where we end the motivation. So we've got plenty of movement to do. What the Americans are going to do to get rid of this pushing German threat here is going to be interesting. So here we go into the movement phase. Okay, so for movement, the only thing that happened is the Americans have reshuffled their platoons in the building. So 3rd Platoon has moved from this building to this building since they are fresh and have not taken any casualties, and 1st Platoon has quite rightly moved back into this building, so they're still covering the objective but also taking a rest. The only other thing that moved was the OP is driven down the road and is going to lay down some fire onto the half tracks or something else. And that is it for American movement, so now we're going to go into the shooting phase. Okay, so over here the artillery is pinning stuff but not killing anything, which is getting a bit annoying for Lucas. Over here, similar sort of thing. Artillery again is pinning stuff but not killing anything. The bazookas in the building got rid of the flamethrower, and the OP got rid of the half track. A lot of shooting, didn't manage to kill anything else either. One of the Panthers have been blown up by the Sherman 76s, of which they did a shoot and scoot and backed away from the edge of the bocage so they can't be seen. The priests over here could not fire artillery because the only spotting team that could do it used up all its chances. They direct fired into the OP but missed, only needing 3s to hit with 2 shots. And yeah, that's what happened that turn. So we are now going into SS turn 4. Okay, so again, the SS player has managed to rally everything, and even a little bonus as well. The last stand was passed, but everything over here is definitely thanks to the formation commander smack bang in the middle of everything, keeping everyone where they should be, forcing everyone forward. So he's a good contender for man of the match at the moment. So we're off to German movement, and there's a lot of stuff still moving around for the Germans, and the Americans are still holding on to this house. Okay, so movement wise, the Pioneers have tactically and in a follow me to push further towards this side. 2nd Platoon have got outside of their half tracks and have lined around the bocage, and the formation commanders on the far right tip here in a position to join either of these platoons. This Pack 40 has done a tactical move to move towards this hedge here, so you can have a chance to shoot at the Sherman. So in a 10 turns time you will get there. The half tracks have remained where they are, and so has the Vesps, and the Panthers have gone up to the hedge to try and finish off the remaining Shermans. The last standing unit of 3rd Platoon has gone to join the Panthers to block any flanking move from the Shermans and maybe to finish off in another turn the Shermans if need be. And that's it for movement. So now we're going to go into the shooting. I believe the Vesps are going to be doing some direct shots this turn, as they're going to be re-rolling hits because there's only 2 teams left. So we'll go into it and see what happens. Okay, in the shooting phase, all units ranged in on this point here. Got a few hits, but no kills unfortunately, but they are there for next turn. The Pack 40 over on the hill, over yonder, missed on the Sherman. A lot of firepower went into the remnants of 1st Platoon, and in the end it was the machine gun nest all the way over here, needing 6s to hit. Got 3 hits in fact, and managed to get rid of the mortar team that was there. Over with the duel with the Panthers, only 1 Sherman remaining over here as he's backing away, so there's a few last stand tests to do now for the Americans going into their turn 5. Okay, so motivations. Again, the Americans have successfully rallied. Last stand test has been passed on the paras on this objective, and most importantly the Sherman 76 is good to go. He's happy, he wants to try and get rid of 1 more Panther before the game's out. So here we go into American turn 5. Okay, so movement. The unit leader from 1st Platoon has moved into the craters to be a bit of a link between his platoon and the HQ for the morale. The 76mm Sherman has managed to got over the bocage, driven up the road, so he is in potential side shots of the Panthers. The priests have done a similar thing, but these 2 managed to drive around here to also get side shots, and this guy failed his cross because he had to drive over here to get to there, but he has failed. And that is it for American movement. Still clinging on to this central house, so contesting this objective, so they need to be getting rid of first, but there's still plenty to do as we go into the shooting for turn 5. Okay, so continuing the theme of Lucas, he's pinning lots, not killing an awful lot. So over here, quite a few 1st Platoon have been dropped by artillery and some MGs. Over here, another half-track has been killed by the bazooka. But over here, the disaster's really happening. The Sherman 76 needed 4s to hit because of the stabilizers missed. The 2 priests managed to hit, but then when the hits were randomised, the front and side armour, they both hit the front, so nothing went through. So if you've not seen this before, so you draw a line from the hull for the front armour, but you also do the same for the turret. So if you're in both 4, 5, 6 randomises what gets hit, the front or the side. So unfortunately they all ended up on the front, so that negated the 89 of the priests, because the front armour of the Panthers is a 9, so nothing's going to happen. And that is it. So now we go into German turn 5. Okay, so motivations. All the SS have rallied, and again everything's past the last stands. So again the SS continue their rumble forward towards the American objectives and the mortars. So here we go into the movement phase. Okay then, so 1st Platoon has moved in to get into an assault with these mortars, while 2 teams have been allocated to try and deal with the Sherman OP, with a Panzerfaust and a Panzerschreck. 2nd Platoon and HQs remaining still, and these guys are starting to dash now to get better shots. The half-track has reversed back to get away from the bazookas in this building here. Panthers had to do a little reshuffle. So one is reversed back to allow the centre one to gain a shot on the Sherman, and one is driven up onto the hill. The remaining Grenadier team from 3rd Platoon has moved to within assault range of the Sherman, and also, most importantly, Panzerfaust range. And that is where we leave it for the movement. So now the fun bit, the shooting. So let's see how this goes. Okay then, so with the shooting, one plucky rifle team managed to get rid of a dug-in mortar. Unfortunately, the Panzerfaust Panzerschreck combo didn't get anything. With artillery, 1st Platoon is now reduced to just 1 team, and 3rd Platoon took a right battering, whittling them down just to 4 teams, 2 of them being bazookas. The Panthers managed to take out the last Sherman 76 and also one of their priests as well. So really getting whittled down as the Americans go into their turn 6. So everyone passed their motivations and most importantly the last standby here. In the movement, this priest here has driven over the hedge to try and get this last grenadier, and the paratroopers attempted a blitz move to get into the woods to shoot at the Panthers but failed. So that is it for movement, so now we're going into the shooting again. Okay, so in the shooting, a few more teams from 1st Platoon have been dropped. Mixture of mortar fire right at the back, nothing from the Sherman, so yeah, it was just the mortars that got the last team at the back. The priests ranged in here, got a few hits but no kills, and that was pretty much it for artillery. But over here, the priest here managed to 50 cal the remaining grenadier of 3rd Platoon, and this other guy managed to bail this panther. So unfortunately, if these guys had managed to get out with the blitz, they might have been able to finish off this one and force them to last stand. But that is where it stands, and now we're going into turn 6 for the SS. Okay, so all pinned units are back in. Half track is still not running away, but this panther here does not want to get back in, and that is it. So now we're going into the movement again. Okay, the time has come now. 1st Platoon, 2nd Platoon are gearing up to assault the houses, with one aiming a Panzerfaust at the OP again. But the OP is exposed to a panther on the hill. Everything is ready. Panzer Pack 40s have secured this objective, and everything's in position with the HQ in between both to lend some morale support. But everyone is gone to ground for the Americans, so it might be a bit tricky to pin them, but there isn't many left anyway. So let's go into the shooting and see what happens. Okay, so the OP has been bailed out by the Panzerschreck, and another bazooka team has been dropped in this building. Over here, the Shreks are gone, the priests are gone. So now we're moving into the assault. None of the Americans are pinned, so it could go either way. So let's see what happens. Okay then, so these guys assaulted into the building and killed the guy. As a result, this OP is destroyed, and these guys had to push back because we were saying they contributed to defensive fire, although they couldn't, so technically they are part of the assault. Just check if I was right. These guys, however, were forced back by the guys in the building, so they're both pinned and they are stuck by here, but luckily there is smoke in the way, so there's a lot to do for American turn 7. Okay, so everything is past the motivations, and the priests have all passed their cross checks to get out of the woods, and now we're ready to lay down suppressing fires for these guys to get out of the building and assault these teams off the objectives. And here we go. Okay, so the shooting has resulted in the HQ being killed, but he is swapped into 1st Platoon. Everyone's pinned though who can fire, so now the Americans are coming out of the house. Okay, so basically the Americans came out of the building and they were forced back in, and the HQ team got killed, but he swapped with the bazooka team, so he's still alive and they're pinned but in the building. But it's up to the SS now to get back in and kill them. So as you can see here, everything's past their motivations and everything has surrounded this building in the middle with just 3 American teams left. Panthers have lined up their big guns as well. 2nd Platoon is geared up to assault with 1st Platoon and the HQ with all their weapons ready as well. And the OP with his MGs trained on the house as well. So if they can survive the hail of bullets, they then have the bayonets and knives coming for them. So let's see how this pans out. Right, so funnily enough, they all survived everything. So we're going into the assault. So let's see if they can survive this. Okay, so that is done. The house has been cleared of Americans. They did have a counterattack and took out an SS base, so it wasn't. They didn't roll over and succumb to their fate. They did go out fighting. So good mention to the HQ and 3rd Platoon in there. So Tom is the victor, but at a cost. A minor victory, putting the score at a. What is the score, Tom?
I've lost an infantry platoon, a flamethrower platoon, and a recce platoon, so I've lost 3 platoons.
Yep, so what is that in score terms?
6-3.
Okay, cool.
6-3, is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay then, so Tom, who is your man of the match?
Oh, tough question. I think everyone pulled away in that mission, if I'm honest. First platoon went on a bit of a wander. Yeah. So, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, the flamethrower killed, 5 bases or something, and it's only 3 points.
Yeah, I suppose he did good.
And it lured out his Shermans as well, which is all I was expecting. So it'd be a toss-up between them and maybe 1st Platoon.
Let's get into the...
1st Platoon, because they just went mental and killed lots of stuff.
Okay, and Lucas, do you have a man of the match?
I reckon my HQ, he was just always there. He was just providing defensive fire, calling down bombardment, getting platoons unpinned, like, he just sort of did everything.
Yeah.
I couldn't really ask more.
Yeah.
Anything differently you would have done, Tom? Anything different you would have taken in your list?
I think my lesson is that, unfortunately, SS Grenadiers have to go in half tracks. So I think you can only really do them in a mechanised list, because when they're running around on foot, they just get bombarded. So I think I'd probably try and do an all-mech list, but that would really struggle in this particular match, because there's lots of edges and things, but and maybe buy more flamethrowers, I'm not sure.
Yeah, they did do well.
Yeah. But otherwise, it did okay. I think I got away with Lucas not really particularly hot on his artillery, but...
Oh, in general. Yeah, and Lucas...
He made 1 time on target all day, didn't he?
Yeah.
And Lucas, anything different with you, yeah?
LMGs in the paras, like, it just makes sense to do, especially against aggressive infantry. I feel like I'm so used to fighting careful, my stuff gets pinned, and then 1 extra shot that a rifle bases have doesn't feel like a lot. But against aggressive stuff, when I'm unpinning because of my HQ, it would actually make such a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and particularly when you consider Soviets around the hill as well. I know it's not dramatic, but competitive-wise, it's LMGs. I mean, how many points is a LMG?
Point.
Funnily enough, I can actually... Yeah, so I can actually drop... If I drop the platoons all down to the smaller platoon, but then buy 2 LMGs, you end up with a platoon that has the same number of stands, but costs a point less.
Yeah. I mean, you might be better off dropping maybe just one of your small mortars for an LMG, just to keep platoon sizes big, because you need to be able to take casualties as well, don't you?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
The mortar comes with it though, doesn't it?
The mortars are tricky because they're integral, yeah.
Ah, right. Oh.
Well, you maybe like drop a bazooka maybe, so it's 1 bazooka, 1 LMG, so it kind of like it can cover both options, you know?
I do love bazookas though.
Or you could dedicate 1 platoon for anti-infantry, 1 for anti-tank, and then 1 for a mix, and have them as it.
Yeah, I think that might actually be a bit of a ball, to be honest. I'll have 1, say, assaulting platoon that does have the LMGs, so it's got 7 stands that can assault, so it's got 9 stands that can assault.
Yeah.
And have the other 2 with the LMGs, so that they're a bit more defensively minded, perhaps.
Or even
Yeah.
just.
Or maybe just 1 offensive, 1 defensive, and then 1 in the middle that helps support wherever you need a bit of assistance.
I think this is the I think this is one of the best my powers have actually done in general, so I'm going to